Hello, I'm Kurt Lidke, Executive Director of Klamath Film, and you just watched Maxie, a film about homeless teens trying to survive in Eugene. With us is the filmmaker, Jarrett Bryant, as well as some of the cast and crew. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate you taking some time out to talk to us about this film.
Good to be here.
So,
Hello.
So, first of all, maybe we should do roll call and who was actually, who did what on the film. So we have one of the lead cast members, Liv. Hello, Liv.
Hi there. I'm Liv, and I played Sid.
And then from the cast also, we have Hope, who played Desiree. Hello.
Hello. I played, Desiree. Yeah.
And then the producer and also cinematographer, Henry. Hello, sir.
Cinematographer and primary editor of the film.
Terrific. And the director, Jarrett. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
Well, thank you for this film. First of all, this film was a really weird film watching experience for me because I grew up in Eugene. And I swear I grew up with some of these kids, and I recognized just about every square inch where you saw this film. Or where you shot this film. So maybe I had a little bit different experience with this film than others might, because I recognize I've been there, and I probably some of the kids that I went to school with are still hanging out in the downtown Eugene Square to this day. So it hit home in a lot of different respects for me personally.
Good.
Yeah, and that can be good and bad, I suppose, depending on the film's story arc and what the topic, what it's covering. Did this story come out of any personal experiences for anyone, or inspired by individuals that you know? As this is very much a reality for Portland, Eugene area of kids that are experiencing this.
It came from a place of, I guess, desperation in terms of I've met some of these teens that I have a business downtown as well, and they would come into the downtown store and we'd have conversations, and I would find that they're addicted to drugs and they come from different sides of the tracks, some in very wealthy areas and some in the trailer parks of Eugene and or Springfield. So that's where the story somewhat materialized.
Okay. And Jarrett, I know that you recently relocated to Eugene. You're actually from my old stomping grounds of Hollywood, where I spent about 12 years working in the entertainment industry before I moved to Southern Oregon. What made you want to make this film in Eugene?
Well, being that I live here now, of course, it was much easier than trying to shoot a film in Los Angeles. And secondly, I just felt like there's so much discovery here in Oregon, right? Nobody really knows anything about Oregon. When I lived in Los Angeles, when you would talk of, someone moving to Oregon or to Idaho or one of those states, like where? What? Why? So I think that doing films here actually is a benefit because it's new terrain. It's undiscovered.
Eugene is interesting in a lot of respects because it's been a very important area for film history. Of course, everyone knows now Animal House, but also the very first student film ever made in history was done by University of Oregon students, Ed's Co-ed, in 1928.
Oh, really?
There's been other feature films shot all throughout the state of Oregon, but in Eugene, I know there's a big theater scene, but there's a growing film scene, but there haven't been a lot of films shot in Eugene in recent years. So was this a crew that you had worked before with previously, and how did it all kind of come together to bring the group to want to make this film in Eugene?
No, brand new. Henry, actually, I had a relationship with Henry prior to shooting the film, and that was because we played old man's basketball league. So I met him there. And I knew that he was into videography, but I didn't know that he was extremely skilled behind the camera. And that wasn't until there was a Lane College, like a 48-hour horror film fest that he participated in. And I went that night and I watched and I saw his film, and I thought by far the best film up there was Henry's film. And luckily for me, I already knew him. So we had a conversation. He read the screenplay and he decided, yeah, I want to do it.
So was this film shot during COVID, or did you manage to do all the principal photography beforehand? Because we all know it's hard enough to make a film, much less make a film during a global pandemic with all of the added restrictions thrown in. How did that change the production from maybe the cast perspective and crew perspective, if it was indeed done during the pandemic?
Yes, it was. We started shooting February 15th. My wife would not allow me to shoot on February 14th. So we started on the 15th.
Valid.
And I think we went, was it 2 weeks, Henry? And Liv was about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then we had to stop.
It wasn't that long until we had to stop.
Yes.
That's when shutdowns started taking effect, and we kind of had to revise our plan of how we were going to go about shooting everything.
Yes, and eliminate some roles. So there's less people on the set. And then that's when I had to rewrite it to incorporate COVID. And with that rewrite as well, Hope's role grew. Desiree, and I actually think it turned out better in the long run. It gave the scenes where you're downtown and there's not much activity going on, gives it kind of a harrowing type feel, like a ghost town type of feel, which I think adds to the film.
That was actually indicative of a lot of the films that ended up getting selected in this year's film festival. Is filmmakers in Eugene, filmmakers in Portland found very busy streets suddenly abandoned, and were like, when am I ever going to get an opportunity to film in this setting again without spending millions on set design and a soundstage, to try to replicate this scenario? I'd never find this again. So we got to figure out something to actually film.
Yeah.
While everyone else is off making sourdough bread and figuring out what they're going to do with all their time. All the filmmakers are like, how can I use this?
Yeah. What was also really great about it is during that period, I was really skeptical as to if we should go on. But then I spoke with Henry and the cast, Liv and Miles, and they were gung-ho, let's do it. Let's finish it. Let's do what we have to do to make it work, and let's get this going. Because I was thinking maybe we should wait till COVID was over. Well, here we are.
Yeah. Oh, how naive we were, thinking that, it'll just be a week or two that we're shut down and then everything will get back to normal.
Oh gosh.
But so how long did that end up extending the production, and when did you roll back into full on production after the shutdown started?
About 3 weeks later, and we were shooting weekends only. So we went from February 15th to July 22nd. And, Henry was great with the setups and the camera movements. We saved a lot of time, because we should have finished somewhere around late May, early June. So we're talking 4 or 5 more weeks, and it wasn't too bad overall.
Okay. So for Liv and Hope, for cast members, how did you find your characters? Were they inspired by anyone that you knew, or what sort of preparations? Hopefully nothing method, because hopefully no one was out smoking meth to prepare for your role. But.
Oh yeah, right before we got on set.
That's a good question. I feel like I drew a lot of myself into Sid, or at least how I've been before and who I don't want to be anymore, at least with a codependent type relationship. But at least I think I could draw some of the naive kindness from myself and not recognizing when I'm being taken advantage of in situations. Not anymore though, but I feel like I could draw past experiences into my character. And yeah, no method acting. I thought about it. We joked about it.
Oh no.
Hope, how about for Desiree's role?
Desiree. Well, it may seem subtle, but she actually comes across as like a really caring character. And so like I don't know, I feel like I'm a caring person. And so I mean, she's all whacked out on drugs, but I mean, if she wasn't, I feel like she would be this just nurturing, empathetic, caring person. So I just took that and then I added some, you know, pizzazz, or I don't know how to say drugs straight up, but you know.
I have to say, Kurt, before we move further in terms of the acting ability, all of them were 19 years old. You know, Miles 19, Liv 19. Hope you were 18 at the time, or 19?
I was 19.
19.
Yeah.
All three of them were 19. And all three of them gave of themselves 100%. I mean, after the first day, Henry and I looked at each other, we watched some of the footage, and there was the scene on the bridge, and we thought, wow. For 19 years old, they were incredible. They were professional. They knew their lines. I never had a moment where we had to stop and go through lines and figure out who says what when. They just were on it. And for 19 years old, extremely, extremely impressive.
Yeah, there's an old adage in Hollywood you probably came across in circles as well, Jarrett, is never work with kids or animals if you can help it.
Yes.
Because youth actors in particular can either really make or really break a film, no matter how good a script may be or the other performances. If there's a kid that just can't pull it together, it brings down the entire production. I was really impressed with all of the performances of the younger actors in this film, the way that they were able to portray this. And that's why I was curious about how you got your characters, if it was coming from people that you had perhaps met in school that you know that have gone down this dark path, or you've just done a lot of acting in your short years and have you know, developed the abilities, because it was very believable in the approach, and that's hard to do in general for roles of this nature. It's even harder to do with people who are on the younger side.
Yes. And Henry did an excellent job capturing all the emotion, all the moments, the scenes, the scenarios. He was brilliant.
And the other aspect of that I'm sure, if it hasn't been asked in other places where you've been able to present this, the makeup. We've sadly all encountered or seen what meth face looks like. Messed up teeth, breakouts all over. Was that makeup, or did you just like smear pizza all over your face for days in preparation, or did you stop showering for a couple of weeks? Like, what steps did you take to get that really identifiable look?
Oh boy, baby oil.
I mean, there was fake blood stuff on our teeth that we had to let dry. I mean, the worst part is when Jarrett handed me baby oil and was like,
that was so bad.
Your hair. Oh, that was terrible.
No,
as soon as I went home,
that was
straight to the shower, brush my teeth, wash my face.
Yeah.
Oh, it was bad. It was bad.
It was pretty bad.
They look great, though. They look great.
Hey, man, that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
First time you're going to hear that meth people look great.
Oh my goodness.
It makes me think of watching a lot of the behind the scenes stuff from the Lord of the Rings films, where some of the actors who played hobbits kept track of all of the days where they had to go through like 4 extra hours of makeup just for the feet, and then none of the scenes they shot showed their feet in it. So were there complaints from like maybe you, Liv, or Hope, or Miles, of we went through all this makeup and the shot that we're getting doesn't show it? Why did we have to go through all of this hell if the shots that we're getting don't show it?
I think there was a few times where we did our teeth, and it was just like a scene where we were walking. but
Oh man.
that was okay. It was okay.
Okay. So not like we're running tally like, damn it, Jarrett, this is like the 5th day of production. Community participation is something that I'm interested in too. One, that's my home community. Like I said, I recognize just about every square inch where you shot this. I still go home to Eugene often. You filmed in places where these types of people are definitely hanging out for the most part. Like Washington Park is not a place to hang out in after night, late at night, even if you do love playing basketball. So for somebody from Eugene, I know that that's grabbing a lot of realism. But did that create any sort of problems with the actual filming production, getting people to cooperate during production or not be staring into the camera? We just had a film shoot here in Klamath a week ago, and we had, it was a closed set downtown outside, and we had a meth addict who kept showing up on set trying to have an argument with a tree while we're trying to record audio in a car. So we're working around some of these areas where, some of the people are known to hang out. Did that create any sort of additional problems in the production?
I'll let Henry answer that one in regard to the distractions we had.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when you're shooting and you're flying by the seat of your pants on locations that maybe you don't have, permission to shoot at, you just kind of guerrilla style. All right, this is where we're going to shoot. This is how we're going to do it. And, kind of just rolling with it. You got people that just walk up to you and be like, oh, what are you guys doing? Shooting a film, and they just want to talk to you, and you're just trying to get your takes done and get the shots you need. And then, people coming up and be like, oh, this isn't believable. I've lived on the streets for this long. And I'm like, no, you don't really know how it's all going to come together. You're just looking at this one aspect of it. So
yes,
definitely in many of the situations, and you never know what you're going to encounter when you don't have the space locked down specifically for you. You got to, work around those things, but it gives it a realism, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also we had people handing Liv and Miles food.
No way.
Did you?
Oh man, there was one gas station scene where we pulled up, and there was 2 people that were basically dressed identical to what Sid and Max were dressed in the film. It was like their exact replica. And I was like, oh my god, they're wearing the exact same thing you guys are.
And they were arguing in the street.
Oh yeah, they were loud argument. Clearly whacked out on something.
Did you have an incident where you're in full makeup and you have between takes you have like a coffee cup and someone tried to put a change into your coffee or something? Or
I think the closest thing was how Jarrett was mentioning where they were coming up and offering them food, and they were like, oh no, we're not actually, it's not a documentary, it's a narrative film. Like kids aren't really on the street.
We appreciate it, but craft services is actually right around the corner providing that.
Give it to somebody who needs it more than us. For sure.
Yes.
I think the biggest filming downtown at the skate park there, I think the hardest thing or the most thing we had to plot for and plan for is letting the police know that we were going to be downtown and that we were going to have a gun, a fake gun, and that we were going to have a knife.
Yeah.
But in terms of the people in the community, they stayed away. They didn't involve themselves for the most part. We had one guy that was in Springfield. I think he was on his dirt bike, and he kept going back and forth, doing like little wheelies and stuff, so he could be on camera. But other than that, not really. It was pretty smooth.
Okay, good.
We had a nice situation at the 7-Eleven where somebody ran out of the store, dropped trowel right next to 7-Eleven, and just let loose. Yes,
I forgot about that.
There's another guy yelling at us across the street. We had to keep redoing takes because there was people yelling at us from across the street.
Yes. So we had our are hindrances.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, like coming from the LA film industry, people are so used to there being film productions happening all the time on every street corner. People are kind of jaded to it. But in places like even in Portland, there's so much production that happens up there. But in places like Eugene, where there's there's fewer things going on, I think there's still a general curiosity and more willingness to work within the confines of a production than.
Right.
Just the frustration of like in LA, I'm sure Jarrett, you dealt with all the time of all of the move your car or else you'll get towed notifications that would hit every neighborhood like every other week.
Yes. But there is something to be said to be able to cordon off an area and shoot several shots and get great audio, great sound quality, the whole bit. But of course that costs millions of dollars. or build a sound stage. We would love to have a sound stage as opposed to a motel room, but yeah, that was a very tight shooting space as well.
Yeah. So
we were able to keep a pretty low profile because we were running a skeleton crew, and we just have the actors and Jarrett directing, and then you know, somebody recording audio, and you know, we're just using all natural lighting pretty primarily through all the film. And there's a couple of scenes where we, you know, provided our own lighting, but just kind of working with what was available. And I'm primarily running my camera just off a gimbal, just one setup, so that I can be real mobile and versatile. So most of it wasn't an issue. Just here and there we ran into obstacles that we worked around.
Right. So for cast members, Live in Hope, what attracted you to wanting to be a part of this project, and what made you want to get involved in such a difficult and challenging film?
Good question. So Malachi, who actually couldn't be to this meeting right now, me and him both went to Lane Community College and were in theater together. And he's the one that actually told me about this. He said, hey, I know you've done a lot of theater stuff, but there's this film audition. We're going to do a table read. You should totally come by on audition for this part. It's like, cool, why not? I mean, seems fun. Just nervous, but I might as well try out. So I went to the table read and everyone was super nice. And I've always liked darker-esque materials, dramas. I've always liked that, more intense things. So I read through it and I was like, whoa, this is rad. So yeah, I just auditioned and I don't know what I expected. I didn't expect to get the part. I just thought I was going to go to a table read and just try out and get some experience and go home and call it a day. But
she was exceptional.
Yeah.
And then you found out about the makeup involved and said, what the hell did I get myself into?
No.
And Hope, what about you?
Well, I'm kind of in the same boat as Liv, like, as far as just like my preference of film, like, I think I saw it on Facebook, like Lane Community Film Actors. I think I saw a notification on Facebook for auditions. And so I saw that, showed up for the auditions, and the script was like everything I love, just, you know, dark, intense, as Liv said. And so I tried out, and I don't think Desiree wasn't a character at that point, was she?
No, she was not.
No. So I actually read for Sid.
Yes.
But I don't know. I guess Desiree just came to be eventually.
I thought
geez. Oh, man.
You know what? I've got to incorporate into this.
So, gosh. And then Jarrett, this cool guy, created this character and casted me as Desiree. And I really like her. I don't know. I love the film overall, but that's kind of how I got into it. I saw that it was dark, saw the audition. Same deal as Liv, really.
Well, we've already delved into some of it with the 7-Eleven incident, but you know, it's a very serious film. But during the course of any production, there's always behind the scenes hijinks or on camera bloopers. Someone flubs a line, someone gets a really bad case of giggles. Any really funny moments that stand out to people in particular? I know, Henry, you already mentioned the pooping incident outside of 7-Eleven, but outside of that, maybe Hope or Liv, do you have favorite moments that still stand out and make you laugh to this day, thinking back on the production?
I have something. I mean, I laugh at it now, but in that moment, it was terrible. Okay, it was the gas station scene with Desiree, where she comes out of the gas station and sees Maxie, and said, "I actually had shingles." Me.
Oh,
I had shingles. Yeah, I remember, dude. I had shingles. Yeah. So that's like, I laugh at it now, but in the moment, that was awful. I mean, that's a little behind the scenes, I guess.
Sure.
Not too funny, but
Liv, do you have
you powered through.
Yes, you
hey.
did.
I remember, so in the laundromat scene, when I'm talking to who I just discovered is my grandpa. So I'm reading with, his name's Gar. And there's this one line that he was struggling with. And at one part he says the line wrong. I don't know if he says Kate Winslow's daughter, but he says the name wrong. And I'm just trying to keep the scene going. So I just go, no. And we're just rolling and like just trying to keep it going, but we all just started busting up and we couldn't keep going. That was really funny. That part. That was really
no.
He was really beating himself over it. We ended up doing like 27 takes of this one particular line, and you just would keep saying the name wrong sometimes. And
yeah. Oh, when he got it right, he nailed it.
He nailed it eventually.
I used to work in the music industry in LA, and there were times being in a recording studio on take 75 of trying to record this chorus and just can't quite get it right. And then eventually take 3 is what ends up on the song, you know? So, but you got to bring more energy, but we're still going to use like take 3 way back when. So where have you been able to show this film, and what have the audience reactions been? Because obviously it's a weird time to try to take films to festivals right now with the pandemic and entering its what feels like the 32nd year of COVID. What has reactions been, and where have audiences been able to check this out?
The reactions have been extremely positive. We've done very well at the festivals. We just showed it in Nevada, in Las Vegas. There's a festival there, and we won for Best Dramatic Feature Film. So, and Liv won for Best Actress in a Feature Film. So that's her second one, by the way. And we've won for Best Feature Film in Sweden, in Canada, in Washington, up in Washington at the Ellensburg Film Festival, and Nevada, like I said, and what was the other one? There was one more. There's 5. And in California, down in Los Angeles, is a festival down there. So we've been pretty successful thus far, and a lot of people have really received it well.
Good. Last question, and I'll let everyone chime in on this in their own way.
Okay, one thing before you do that.
Yeah.
But most importantly, we talked about this before, we want to do well in Oregon. That's what's most important. As we want to be appreciated here.
Well, it's a little bit different perspective too when there's people from there who recognize things that are shot. Like I said, I grew up in Eugene, and I watched National Lampoon's Animal House growing up, who knows how many times, just because like, oh, there's that.
Right.
Oh, and that makes no sense that they would drive 5 hours to go around the corner, you know. but that's movie magic, right? And like it's really cool to like watch Ed's Co-Ed, shot in 1928 on the University of Oregon campus, and then watch Animal House, and then today and see 1928, 1978, 2021, how how the locations have changed and how they're still the same. So stuff like that is always kind of fun when you've been there, you've seen it, you know it. It's kind of like Jarrett. I'm since you grew up in Hollywood, it's not the same. But for me, when I first moved to LA, at first coming from Oregon, it was super exciting because I recognized every street corner from this film or that TV show. Like, oh, this is so cool. And after a month, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Because every corner in LA imaginable has appeared in something at some point somewhere. But in Eugene, where there's not a lot of productions, it's still kind of a novelty thing that's still fun to see. So last question to everybody, and I'll let everyone chime in on this. What do you hope that people take away from watching Maxie? Liv, why don't we start with you?
I think one of the most important things to take away, at least just from my perspective playing Sid, because I view it a lot from the relationship between Sid and Maxie, because there's a lot of different factors that play into it, is to know your worth. And to, even despite the situations, to know your worth, because obviously it's circumstantial based on their situation on why they were together. But I think it's really important that through that people can relate their relationships and move forward and have healthy ones.
Henry, what do you hope that people get out of watching this film?
Oh man, I hope they look at it and they're like, wow, that cinematography is those editing transitions are incredible. Wow, whoever was behind that really know how to put together a film. No, I don't know. I hope that it draws people in and it gives them a sense of what street life is like in Eugene and gives them a little bit different perspective and view of what goes on in Eugene, and hope it comes across authentic, because there's times when I was filming it when I wasn't sure, just because of you don't know how things are going to come together in the end, and in the moment you're like, man, is this going to be authentic? Are people going to is this going to seem genuine? And I hope that it is when people watch it, and I hope it touches people that way.
Right. Hope, how about you?
Well, kind of the same as Henry. Just like give them perspective on that kind of lifestyle, but also just kind of give them a message that if you need to make change in your life, you can do it. Like, you do have to work hard for it if you need to, but you can always change if you try. Yeah.
And for the film's writer and director, the floor is yours, sir, for whatever you hope that people take away from watching your film.
I think I want people to, after they watch it, and take away that, for one, if you notice, there's not much drug usage in the film. So you only see them use drugs once, because I wanted to make sure that you understood that the movie wasn't about drugs, and it wasn't about glamorizing drugs or glorifying drugs. It was about the people within the movie, within the situation, and the choices that they make along the way, and how desperation clouds your judgment and causes you to make decisions that are not productive to your future. And I think I wanted to stress that, and stress the relationships, and stress the circumstance much more so than the action or the usage or the glorification of drugs.
That's something that we've seen in film before, but I agree with you. Films like Trainspotting or Requiem for a Dream, I always have trouble saying that word for some reason.
Right.
They do get gratuitous in showcasing the drug use, but then they fall on some of the themes that you showed here, as far as how are people coping, trying to escape it, trying to just live day by day within it. So well done in that respect, that you were able to present that without perhaps going down some of the roads that some of the other films that have followed similar themes have had to do to show it. So,
right.
Well, thank you, all of you, for this film and for joining us. Maxie will be screened on Saturday, September 18th at 2:30 p.m. at the Ross Raglan Theater in our Southern Features category and available all week on demand. Hope, Henry, Liv, and Jarrett, and to the rest of the cast and crew that could not be a part of this, thank you so much for making this film.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.